Okay, this lesson is about the energy of life, okay? Also known as photosynthesis, is the capturing and the storing of that energy from the sun. And then there's another process called cellular respiration, which is the releasing of that energy for us to use, okay? There's two parts to this. The one thing is the plants, can go out in the sunlight and gather the sunlight energy. What they're doing with that energy, photosynthesis, is they're synthesizing this molecule. Now, this is a model of the molecule, little plastic balls, but it represents a glucose molecule. And a glucose molecule is a kind of sugar that is the basic food that life on Earth depends on, okay? And so the energy is stored in this molecule, and then it can be released in our cells through cellular respiration. Photosynthesis is the synthesizing using light. Photo is light. Synthesis is to put together this molecule using the power of sunlight, okay? So the energy of life has to do with this sugar called glucose. What's it called? Say the name. Glucose. And the formula for glucose, it's basically, this is the coolest chemical reaction, because glucose is C6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons. The little black balls represent carbon. H12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of the white balls. Those are hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 oxygens. And so this molecule, or at least in the molecule that this is a model of, is really the foundation of life on this planet. Your brain runs on 100% glucose. Now, there's other kinds of food you can eat that have energy in it, like sucrose is table sugar, or proteins or fats. They all have calories. Calories is a unit of energy, a unit of heat, actually. But your body uses it by converting it to glucose, and then that's where your cells will use it and break the glucose apart and get that energy out of it, okay? And so what we got here then is the idea is the energy of life, photosynthesis, and it's also, you could think of it as why we have to breathe. Everybody take a breath. Exhale. Oh yeah, we got to breathe because we need oxygen. Now, oxygen, most of the air is nitrogen, which we just breathe in and out. We breathe in oxygen, and you probably know we breathe out more carbon dioxide than we breathe in. And now I'll explain why that is in this too. The reason we need to breathe is because we need that oxygen to be able to break apart the glucose molecule to get the energy out of it. And I'll show you why when you see the chemical reaction. So that's what we're getting to. The last lesson, you were practicing this whole idea that energy is never created, or excuse me, matter is never created or destroyed. It only changes form. Matter is never created or destroyed. Okay. And how you write the chemical formulas. Well, now we're going to use it a little bit, okay, for photosynthesis. Now, in my class last year, if you were in my class, we started out where you had like a candle and you put the thing over top of the candle. You remember that? What happened to the candle? Or if you weren't in my class, if you got, I think you probably did a lab similar to that too, where you got a candle and put a jar over top. What happened? The candle goes out, right? Because the candle needs oxygen in order to burn. That's the same as us, okay? So energy is stored in the chemical bonds of the wax, but it can't be released without oxygen. So that's what combustion is. This burning of the wax is combining the wax molecules with oxygen from the air, right? And you can't have the flame unless you have the oxygen, right? Now, there was a guy named Joseph Priestley. I'd like you to write his name down. He was a pretty important scientist back in the day, in the late 1700s. So imagine, he lived in England, but it was about the time of the American Revolution. So if you're familiar with founding fathers, that kind of gets you the time span, right? Joseph Priestley discovered oxygen, okay? And so what he did was an experiment very similar to putting the jar over top of the candle by putting the jar on top of the candle, and the candle would go out. But then he also discovered that plants are producing oxygen by putting a plant in there, and you could reignite that candle again. He used also this very new discovery of electricity to make a spark to light the candle again. Very clever setup he had. So you know that the candle needs, the flame needs oxygen, and you also know that the plants produce oxygen. Well, Joseph Priestley is the guy who discovered that. He also discovered not only do plants make oxygen, but that's the same gas that animals need. Here you have a nice happy mouse with a plant making oxygen for it to breathe. Of course, now in real life, one plant isn't going to produce enough oxygen for one mouse to live, but it lived a little longer. It's like, yeah, okay, but here's an unhappy mouse that used up the oxygen, right? So these plants produce oxygen and animals require oxygen. This was kind of a major discovery, and it really is a super huge, important clue about how life works, including us, including ecosystems, and all life on the planet.